If you're retired and still checking prices at the grocery store more carefully than you ever did while working, you're not imagining things. And no, it's not because you failed to plan. For decades, Americans were told a simple story: work hard, save consistently, pay into the system, retire responsibly. Many people did exactly that. And yet, a growing number of retirees now find themselves doing mental math at the pharmacy counter, delaying dental work, or quietly wondering how long their savings are really supposed to last. This isn't a personal failure, it's a structural one. The quiet anxiety no one advertises. Most retirees are not broke. That's the important part. They have Social Security. Many have pensions, IRAs, or 401ks. They own homes. On paper, they're fine. But paper doesn't buy groceries. What they actually feel is compression, money coming in steadily, but everything around it expanding faster. Food prices don't spike dramatically, they creep. Insurance premiums don't explode, they adjust. Taxes don't announce themselves, they show up quietly in new places. The result is a constant low-grade anxiety, not panic, not crisis, just the feeling that the margin for error is shrinking. And when margins shrink, people become careful, not fearful, careful. Social Security, stable but not generous. Social Security was never designed to replace your income. It was designed to prevent poverty. That distinction matters. COLA adjustments make headlines every year, but here's what rarely gets explained clearly. COLA follows inflation late and imperfectly. By the time benefits rise, prices have already risen, and not all prices rise the same way. Healthcare costs tend to outpace general inflation. Prescription drugs don't politely follow CPI averages. Property taxes rise even if your income doesn't. So while Social Security checks may technically keep up, real purchasing power often doesn't. That's not a conspiracy. It's how the formula works. Timing matters more than most people were told. One of the biggest misunderstandings around Social Security is that claiming early or late is just a personal preference. It isn't. It's a trade-off between monthly security, lifetime totals, survivorship considerations, and tax exposure. Claiming early gives certainty but locks in a lower baseline forever. Delaying increases monthly income but assumes health, longevity, and stability. What rarely gets discussed openly is this: the system quietly rewards those who can afford to wait. If you needed the money at 62, you paid a permanent penalty. If you could wait until 70, you were rewarded with higher guaranteed income. That's not a moral judgment, it's design. Fixed income in a flexible world. Inflation doesn't hurt everyone equally. If you're still working, your income can adjust. If you're retired, your income is mostly fixed, while expenses are not. This is why many retirees obsess over small percentages. A 2% increase isn't just 2% when your income can't grow. This is also why many retirees become extremely skeptical of financial advice that sounds optimistic. They've lived long enough to know that optimism doesn't pay bills. Taxes, the surprise that never surprising again. Many retirees expect taxes to go down in retirement. Sometimes they do. Often they don't. Why? Social Security can become taxable depending on total income. Required minimum distributions push people into higher brackets. State and local taxes don't retire when you do. Medicare premiums can increase with income. The result is a tax picture that feels intentionally opaque, not illegal, just difficult enough that mistakes are easy and penalties are permanent. This fuels a quiet resentment, not toward paying taxes, but toward not knowing the rules clearly until after the damage is done. Why scams work so well on smart people? One uncomfortable truth: scammers don't target the ignorant, they target the cautious. Retirees monitor accounts, answer unknown calls just in case, care deeply about financial stability, fear making irreversible mistakes. That combination is gold for bad actors. Fake Medicare calls, bogus investment protections, urgent messages about benefits changes. The emotional hook is never greed, it's fear of loss. And because many retirees were raised to trust institutions, the scammer's language often sounds familiar enough to feel legitimate. The deeper issue no one names. This isn't just about money, it's about trust erosion. People did what the system asked of them. The system delivered, but narrowly, technically, and without much margin. So retirees adapt. They become careful. They double-check. They hesitate. Not because they're weak, because experience taught them that safety now lives in details, not promises. If retirement feels more fragile than you expected, it's not because you miscalculated. It's because the environment changed after the rules were explained to you. Most people planned for retirement using assumptions that were reasonable at the time. What they didn't plan for was rule drift, small adjustments layered over decades that quietly altered how the system behaves. Nothing dramatic, nothing headline-worthy, just enough to change outcomes. Social Security didn't shrink, but its role did. One of the most misleading phrases around retirement is Social Security is weaker than it used to be. That's not quite true. Social Security still does what it was designed to do, provide a baseline. What changed is everything around it. When the system was built, healthcare was cheaper, housing costs were lower relative to income, fewer expenses were privatized, pensions were more common. Social Security was a supplement. Now, for many retirees, it's the anchor, and anchors feel heavy when the water gets rough. COLA, why it never feels like enough. Cost of living adjustments are calculated using broad inflation measures. That's the technical explanation. The practical one is simpler. Retirees don't buy the same basket of goods as working adults. They spend more on healthcare, medications, utilities, property taxes. They spend less on transportation, work-related expenses, new consumer goods. So when inflation hits areas retirees rely most, COLA doesn't fully compensate, even when it looks generous on paper. This creates a persistent gap between official inflation and lived experience. Not a bug, a mismatch. Longevity changed the math. Here's something people rarely say out loud. The system didn't expect you to live this long. That's not an insult, it's a demographic fact. Longer life expectancy is a victory of modern society, but it stretches every retirement model. Savings must last longer. Healthcare costs extend further. Late life care becomes more probable. The fear many retirees feel isn't about today, it's about year 15 or 20 of retirement, when flexibility is lowest and expenses are highest. That's why people with enough still worry. Required distributions, the quiet tax accelerator. Required minimum distributions were designed to prevent indefinite tax deferral. Reasonable goal, but in practice, RMDs often push retirees into higher tax brackets, increase Medicare premiums, trigger taxation of Social Security, reduce eligibility for certain benefits, all without increasing real spending power. To retirees, it feels like being penalized for saving responsibly. To the system, it's revenue. Neither side is wrong, but the friction is real. Inflation anxiety is rational, not emotional. When someone says inflation worries are overblown, they're usually still earning income. For retirees, inflation is different. You can't work more to compensate. You can't renegotiate income. You can't easily absorb mistakes. So people adjust behavior instead. Delay purchases, downsize expectations, hold more cash than advised, avoid risk even when returns are low. From the outside, this looks overly conservative. From the inside, it feels responsible. Why simple advice often backfires. Many retirees are told, just invest more aggressively, just downsize, just move to a cheaper state, just budget better. The word just is the problem. Each of those choices carries emotional costs, family consequences, health implications, irreversible trade-offs. Retirees don't reject advice because they're stubborn. They reject it because they've learned that irreversible mistakes are the most expensive ones. The hidden fear behind all of this. It's not running out of money tomorrow, it's losing control later. That's why people worry about long-term care, medical debt, cognitive decline combined with financial complexity, and why they're deeply sensitive to any system that feels opaque, rushed, or dismissive. What this leads to? Carefulness, skepticism, a refusal to take comfort in reassurances, not cynicism, experience. Distrust didn't arrive with a bang, it accumulated. For Americans 65 plus, skepticism toward institutions isn't ideological and it isn't trendy. It's observational. It comes from watching the same systems behave one way in public and another way in practice, repeatedly, over decades. This generation didn't grow up distrusting institutions. They grew up relying on them, which is exactly why the disappointment runs so deep. We followed the rules. That sentence comes up again and again. People worked, they paid payroll taxes, they bought insurance, they trusted doctors, they believed official explanations, and most of the time, things worked until they didn't. The problem wasn't collapse, it was erosion, small changes, quiet exceptions, policies that technically complied with the law while violating expectations. No single betrayal, just enough friction to teach people a lesson. Don't assume alignment with your interests and theirs. Healthcare, when care becomes a transaction. Few areas generate more resentment than healthcare, not because retirees reject medicine, but because they understand it too well. They've seen doctors change recommendations based on insurance, hospitals bill for out-of-network care no one agreed to, prescription prices vary wildly for the same drug, coverage explanations that require legal training to decode. The issue isn't that medicine costs money, it's that the logic behind the costs is rarely transparent. When people feel confused while vulnerable, trust evaporates fast, and once lost, it doesn't come back easily. Insurance companies and the language of denial. Insurance language is polite by design, not medically necessary. Outside coverage parameters, alternative options available. Retirees have learned to translate that language. It usually means we can say no without admitting we're saying no. This creates a defensive mindset. People start documenting everything. They ask for second opinions. They appeal decisions not because they expect to win, but because they know silence guarantees loss. That behavior isn't paranoia, it's adaptation. Government decisions feel distant until they aren't. Many retirees aren't obsessed with politics, they're obsessed with consequences. They care when Medicare premiums rise,
Social Security taxation thresholds don't adjust for inflation. Property taxes increase due to assessments. Benefits rules change without clear notice. What frustrates them isn't policy disagreement, it's the sense that decisions are made by people who won't live with the outcomes. This creates a specific kind of distrust, not anger, but detachment. It used to be simpler. When retirees say that, they're not talking about music or manners, they're talking about systems. Bills were easier to understand, contracts were shorter, customer service had humans, mistakes were easier to fix. Complexity increased, but accountability didn't scale with it, so people adapt by simplifying their own lives, even when the system won't. They avoid new programs, they stick with what they know, they hesitate to opt in, not because they hate change, because change has burned them before. Why retirees don't like being lectured. One of the fastest ways to lose this audience is to explain things as if they're uninformed. They aren't. They've navigated multiple recessions, watched pensions disappear, seen institutions rebrand without reform, experienced expert advice that aged badly. What they want isn't reassurance, it's clarity. Show the mechanism, explain the incentive, admit the trade-offs. That earns respect. Platitudes don't. The core emotion underneath skepticism. It isn't bitterness, it's self-protection. People who no longer have decades to recover from mistakes become extremely sensitive to rushed decisions, unclear explanations, pressure tactics, trust us messaging. They don't want guarantees, they want predictability. And when institutions fail to provide it, retirees quietly withdraw trust, without drama, without protest. They just stop believing. Where this leaves things. This generation isn't anti-system, it's post-illusion. They still participate, they still comply. They just verify everything. And that makes them cautious consumers, skeptical patients, careful voters, and very hard to fool twice. By the time people reach their late 60s or 70s, most of them have stopped asking, "What's the best option?" They ask a different question. What's the least dangerous mistake? That shift explains almost every financial and institutional behavior outsiders misread as stubbornness, fear, or conservatism. Rule 1: reduce irreversible decisions. Retirees don't avoid action, they avoid actions that can't be undone. This is why many prefer keeping more cash than advisors recommend, delaying downsizing, staying with familiar banks, insurers, and doctors, rejecting once-in-a-lifetime offers. Liquidity is not about return, it's about escape routes. When time horizons shrink, optionality becomes more valuable than growth. How retirees stretch fixed income in practice, not through radical changes, through micro-adjustments. Shopping patterns shift quietly, not dramatically. Subscription creep is aggressively controlled. Large purchases are delayed until fully necessary. Preventative maintenance replaces replacement. The goal isn't optimization, it's stability. Most retirees would rather live slightly below their means than gamble on returns they can't control. The unspoken tax strategy, predictability over minimization. Many retirees aren't trying to pay the lowest possible taxes, they're trying to avoid surprises. That's why some take smaller RMDs earlier than required, accept slightly higher taxes in exchange for stable brackets, avoid complex tax shelters they don't fully understand. a predictable tax bill feels safer than an optimized one that might change.
This often looks irrational to younger planners. It isn't. Dealing with institutions, document, slow down, verify. Retirees who've been burned learn patterns quickly. They ask for everything in writing, never agree on the first call, delay decisions that come with urgency language, assume incentives exist even when unstated. They don't expect honesty, they expect alignment checks. When something sounds too clean, they assume something is missing. Why free advice triggers suspicion? Free consultations, complimentary reviews, no obligation assessments. To retirees, these phrases don't signal generosity, they signal sales funnels. Experience has taught them that free usually means information asymmetry, pressure later, or selective disclosure. So they listen politely, then double-check elsewhere. Not because they're cynical, because they're trained. The real scam defense nobody talks about. It's not technology, it's not education seminars, it's time. Retirees who avoid scams tend to never act the same day, consult a second person even if they disagree, distrust urgency more than complexity. Scammers thrive on speed. Retirees survive by slowing everything down. Independence as the ultimate currency. Underneath all of this is one overriding priority: not becoming dependent, financially, medically, or institutionally. That's why people resist assisted living conversations, hesitate to consolidate accounts, avoid over-automation, and keep backup systems that seem redundant. Redundancy feels inefficient. It also feels safe. What institutions still misunderstand? Many policies aimed at retirees assume more information builds trust, better interfaces reduce fear, incentives drive behavior. But trust doesn't come from polish, it comes from consistency over time.